Tita, pakilala mo naman sa amin
Si Richard Bulado the Great.
The Great. I want my wife to call me that. Erwan Heussaff the Great. In today's episode, we are talking about Balao Balao, which can mean very different things depending on where you are in the Philippines. But first, we're gonna head off to Rizal, where we can taste this really famous dish. We just shot a whole episode in Infantang, Quizon. Check it out if you haven't. And we're on our way back, and we're driving through Tanay, Rizal. Obviously, Morong is not too far from here. Morong has some really cool kind of historical cooking. I've seen it in some recipe books, and we've never really stopped there. But we were able to find a wonderful grandmother who's willing to show us how to make balao balao. And it's used in various different ways all over the country. I've never seen it made, so that's what we're gonna find out and kind of learn how to do today, how to actually make it. I've only seen it being sold kind of pre-made already in the markets. Then we're gonna take it, bring it back to the studio, and I'm gonna show you both some classical ways, but also some very modern Filipino ways of using this amazing ingredient that just adds so much flavor to some of your favorite dishes. I'm getting hungry, and that's why I'm snacking.
Erwan po. Nice meeting you. Good afternoon.
Hi. Bang gwapo talaga. First of all, you have to wash the fresh shrimp.
So where do you buy the shrimp? Sa palengke lang?
Oh. No, my proportion is 1 kilo of shrimp,
Okay.
1 kilo of rice, and then 5 heads of garlic, and then a little
Third
bit of
cup of ginger.
yeah, and then salt.
And these small shrimp they're always available sa market.
Yep.
So it's easy to find here in
Yes.
Rizal. Okay.
Set aside. Tapos, magsasaing nga. Put more water para bang lugaw. And then, I forgot to bring out the angkat.
Is that anato? Or?
1 spoon.
So that's where you get that rich color, pinkish color.
Okay. Boil it.
You were a teacher for how long?
35 years.
35 years.
And then after that, I took care of my mom for 9 years.
Wow. Do you miss teaching?
No, I do not.
I appreciate the honesty. I like it. Okay, so this is cooked rice just with the coloring.
Yeah. And then mix. And then, let's add
The garlic.
garlic.
This is actually really like blowing my mind. When I've seen balao balao and bicol and everything, I didn't know there was rice inside.
Oh.
Yeah. So here, this is would you say this is a traditional recipe in Rizal? Or?
Yes.
Yeah. And where do you use it in Rizal? Like what kind of dishes do you add it?
Sinigang.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
for sinigang na fish.
So you use it parang in the sinigang just to add flavor?
Sausawan.
For sausawan. Okay.
And then
Ginger.
a little bit of ginger.
Here, I'll help you. What's the secret to a long and happy marriage?
Ano? Compromise.
Compromise, actually. I love your honesty. I think most people will say passion, compromise.
Just like your wife.
Yeah,
She is so sincere.
Yeah.
I like her.
she is very sincere. She's
Yeah.
had to compromise a lot with me.
Oh, and then after mixing,
Yes.
stay for 3 to 4 days. And then after 4 days, cook.
How do you
with-
know it's ready? Is there a particular smell that you're looking for, or parang may
Well,
bubbles or something, or
Yung magiging parang
Yeah.
may white.
is there? Okay, so that's okay na.
Yes.
Okay.
So, iyan. That's it.
Okay. So when you cook it, you're adding water.
Yes.
And how long do you cook it for?
Ay, mga 30 minutes.
Okay, so not too long.
If you want it to be one of your ulam, Again, bawang, sibuyas, and then you put this, and then you put the talbos.
Okay.
Mga talbos.
Talbos.
Oh, that's ulam
That's
already.
ulam na. Yeah.
Oo.
Okay.
Pero usually, balaw-balaw is used as sausawan.
Dito. Okay.
Oo.
I'm just curious as how salty this is.
Maalat? Maasim?
No, it's good. Maasim.
Maasim.
Tapos may fermentation notes that I like.
Usually, kanduli.
Let me try just a bit.
Ito ang iniuulam. Isinasawsaw.
So parang ganun. That's enough.
Sabi nga ng iba, bakit maasim na? Isasawsaw pa sa maasim.
Pero ang sarap. I like it.
Hindi ba mabantot?
No, I mean, I like mga pickles, mga fermented, buro. I like those flavors. It's like adding citrus when you don't have citrus available. And you have, pero it's not as strong as a bagoong.
No.
It's still less pungent. So here, bagoong you'd probably add this much. Here you can add 1 tablespoon and it's still okay. So it's really more adding flavor to the dish. Interesting. Thank you so much.
Tita, pakilala mo naman sa amin
Si Richard Bulado, the Great.
The Great. I want my wife to call me that. Erwan Heussaff, the Great. And you're a captain.
Yes.
So retired captain and retired teacher. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
I have
Yes. Whoa.
there.
Surprise. Okay. The corn. Thank you. You guys want?
Sure.
I love corn. I'm gonna try corn with Balao Balao. I'm pretty sure I'm the first person in Rizal to do that.
Masarap ba
Yeah, that
balaw-balaw?
works, yeah. So Tita Luz showed us how to make the fermented rice paste with the shrimp. That she was very kind to allow us to go into her house and learn how to make it and just kind of teach us also a little bit how to have a very long-lasting marriage. The reason we're doing this particular episode is because alamang and balao balao are two very different and distinct things that mean very different things depending on which region that you are in. In its most basic form, alamang should mean krill, which is basically those tiny shrimps that are needed to make this fermented dish that she taught us how to make. But depending on where you go and which market vendor you're asking, when you say alamang, they might give it to you in different ways, right? And the same exact thing goes for balao. So alamang should be krill. But as you can see in front of me, we currently actually don't have any fresh krill because we did check in different places and the way the vendors kind of understood it were very different. So these two here, we tried them by actually frying them a while ago. These two here are salted krills. Whether or not this is fermented, is a question mark. Honestly, if it's sitting with salt for more than a day, I actually believe that fermentation actually begins. So depending on when you buy it and at what stage of that process you actually use it, then yes, it will be in various forms of fermentation and stages of fermentation. The other two that we have here, this is the starting base. So this is the one Luz actually taught us how to make. That is not fully fermented yet. And this is the other one that is now fully fermented that she gave us, which does have a little bit more of that soupy texture. So to very quickly go over it, when you talk about balao balao, it is actually quite understood in Pampanga, in Pangasinan, in Rizal, obviously, as a fermented mixture of rice and the alamang, which is then used as a paste or something to flavor something else, or sometimes even used as ulam. If you are in the Bicol region, for example, and you ask for balao, you're more likely to either get what some people consider kind of like more of a ginamos, kind of like a shrimp paste, or you can also get what I have here, which is the krill or the alamang that's been salted in a stage of fermentation with some food coloring, particularly in this case. So the first dish I'm gonna show you how to do is the really famous Balao Balao dish that was coined in one of the restaurants in Rizal, which is now really popular, and which kind of has like a soupy form and uses the fermented alamang and rice that Tita Luz made for us. You still have like really full shrimp and rice. As that ferments, the salt that's in the whole mix will actually draw out extra moisture, and you do end up getting something that is quite liquid in texture. And the smell gets a little better because the smell of the fermented rice is really funky. So one of the reasons why we do these videos is because we always try to understand Filipino food a little more. And we always say that the best way to kind of present our food is to first understand it. And this type of confusion that stems from recipes like this is the reason why. Because even if you live in the Philippines, depending on where you are and which region we're basically talking about, not just the food is different, but the actual terms used to describe the ingredients is different. So if we can't all agree in terms of the name of the ingredients and how to use them, how can we actually agree on a recipe, right? And obviously you're gonna have regional differences depending on where you are. So the idea is to try to at least determine in a certain way that if you say balao from Bicol, it means something that's different from the balao from Rizal or from Pampanga. That's just how kind of our language and food hasn't really evolved in terms of specificity, but ideally we get there so it becomes really easy to kind of communicate those ideas. Tomato, our garlic, and our onion. Now we're gonna go ahead and add in our labong. These are bamboo shoots. It really falls into those categories of vegetables in the Philippines in general that I wish, can't say that it's not used enough, but I wish it was communicated more. Because a lot of people have this kind of idea that Filipino food in general doesn't use a lot of vegetables. And I don't believe it because we spent a lot of time in the province, and honestly in the province, you see these home cooks a lot of the times doing dishes with lots of vegetables. Yes, there is a lot of vegetables in Filipino cuisine, it's just that they're not tightly fit in dish categories. And if you go around the street right now, I mean we are in Metro Manila, but you ask people, hey, name me 3 dishes that use labong. I guarantee you, people are gonna look at you like Gen Z stare. And they won't be able to say much just because, yeah, it just doesn't come out, right? It's the same thing when you ask someone, okay, like I'll ask Ina, come here. Name me, so she's from Bacolod. Yeah. Name me 3 dishes that use sayote.
Sayote, tinola, ginisang sayote, and...
See, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're not doing it wrong, don't worry. You're good. You're good. And that's the exact example, but you say the same thing to anyone and they'll be stumped because we tend to use vegetables for very specific things, and then you kind of forget that vegetables can be used in so many different things. So yeah, all that to say, labong can be used in so many different ways, so don't get stuck in certain ways. I didn't put any salt or anything, obviously, because this is fermented rice with shrimp with salt, so it's already quite salty. And all of this, yes, all of this goes into our pot here. I can guarantee you that this is something that would look very strange to foreigners. Actually, it would be very strange for a lot of Filipinos in general. So we're gonna cook this all down together to remove some of that fermentation funk. And then it's basically ready to go. So if you're curious, flavor-wise, what all this tastes like. So when people think of buro in general, or anything fermented or pickles, especially when it comes to the way we do it in the Philippines, which is rice with some sort of seafood, a lot of people freak out because, like, who wants to eat old fish or shrimp, right? It is kind of weird. And when you open it up after it ferments, it is quite funky. So when you do taste fermented food like this, the main profile you actually get is not saltiness, it's sour. You get a lot of sour flavor, which is, you know, when you have pickles, it's primarily sour. So that's what you're getting there. So we're gonna wait for those eggplants to cook with our chilies, and then that's gonna be ready to go. That looks like it's good to go. While plating this, I am very conscious that some of you will be saying things like, oh, that's too chunky, or that's not soupy, or I know what to expect at this point. So let's give this a try. Personally, I find it delicious. It really reminds me of, like, I feel like this is the most basic Filipino thing to say, but it really does remind me of sinigang. It's really bright. I don't get much of the funk. It's a little there, and probably I recognize it because I made it, but if you were to give me just like this, you'd be like, yeah, this is different from any sour soup that you've had before, but it's not shocking or jarring. I would actually even add some fish sauce to this before eating it, just to kind of round off those flavors, personally. So Sandy came on clutch. We sent him to the Mandaluyong wet market, and we finally now have the trifecta. So this is the fresh alamang that has no salt in it. So we cooked it again as well, and this one does just taste like small shrimp. So this is your fresh alamang. But a lot of the time when you go to these wet markets and you ask for the fresh alamang, they actually give you these two, which are very different. These two together actually taste very similar. I think one just has food coloring. We are gonna be making a dish called Sinilihan. So the Bicol Express that is commonly known and that is well propagated, not just nationally in the Philippines, but all over the world, that Bicol Express is not technically a Bicol region invention. The Bicol Express that we now know, with really chunky pieces of pork and lots of fat, is something that if you go to Bicol today, and we have in Camsor, Sorsogon, Camarines Norte, Naga, and you ask around for Bicol Express, people will give you that Gen Z stare. Because for them, it's just like, no, what we do is, they have a lot of dishes that are gintaan, so cooked with gata, and lots of chilies, and then lots of different types of proteins that are usually used, right? I'm gonna show you Sinilihan, which is what I think where the original Bicol Express came from, and then how it was interpreted to add more proteins to it. So, Sinilihan is actually more chilies than pork. So the original Bicol Express is actually way more chilies than pork, which makes sense. When you think about dishes in the Philippines, historically, a lot of it is about kind of using the natural ingredients that you have, because these are cheaper, or they used to be cheaper than this, especially if you grow them. So same thing with the Balao Balao that we made, right? It's using the alamang, extending its shelf life in terms of fermenting it, adding volume to it, and all of a sudden you have alamang, which started from this, to a whole big thing like that of potential ulam, right? So with Filipino food, it's really tied into this idea of survival, or extending shelf life and extending the amount of volume of food that you have in front of you. So we need a lot of chilies, way more than you actually think. The other key part of this recipe, obviously, is the pork. Again, I'm gonna do a lot of assumptions here. I'm gonna assume that this dish was usually made with kind of like the trimmings or things that you wouldn't fully sell or use for other dishes that require a higher protein ratio, which is why we've kind of taken these liempo cuts and we've removed, consciously, we did it on purpose, we removed most of the meat here, so we're gonna be using mostly the fat. And that's what's gonna not only create the oil, obviously with the rendered out coconut later, but give us like a beautiful kind of porky flavor without it being focused on the pork. And you want these to almost like disappear in the dish. I will help it along with a bit of sodium. Usually when you add a bit of salt to anything, it just draws out the moisture. Wait for that, and then we'll add the rest. Really important for you to spend some time here, because this is what you want to happen. On camera, we make it look fast, but that's been cooking down for about 15 minutes, so that natural oil starts to come up and you get a natural crisp on the pork. You could speed this up by just adding more oil, but you won't get those textural differences that are really, really important. So now we're gonna go in with our onions and our garlic. Toast that up a little first, and then we're gonna go in with all our chili. All that goes in. I think this is a good moment to actually add more sodium. So this time I'm using the salted alamang. So I'm gonna start with a small quantity for now, like 1 heaped tablespoon, and then we'll use it kind of like how you would use salt. Coconut goes in. Really important, we're patient here and just let this cook down and let that natural fat from the coconut separate. So if you come closer and you look into the pan, you will see what I am seeing, which is kind of like how the oil has risen up and kind of separated. And now that fat also from that pork is fully rendered out. This is to the point that I like it, but it doesn't mean that you can't take it further. Some people will even dry this out further where you have even less of that gravy brown and that oil really comes out separately. I'm gonna taste it first, because this is where I'll decide whether or not to add more of our alamang, or salted alamang, sorry. Oh my God. I just went. That's not bad. Beautiful. This is insane. Look at that oil. That oil's gonna go right on my rice. Woo! Bit of pork, lots of chili. That's so good. You know what, Harold? Shut the f***, come here. You guys have seen Harold in our Ford videos, but you haven't seen him in our studio shoots. He's been talking behind the camera. I know you're hungry. He's been asking for a lunch break for the last 30 minutes. So scoop and then put it here. It's not that spicy, no man. Put more chili. Yeah, it's good. Put more.
I could eat this all day.
Is it good? Mm-hmm. Is it spicy?
Oh my God, ayan na.
I was actually keeping it in. I'm sweating. I'm sweating because I was trying not to show that it was spicy. But it's not like spicy you can't eat it. It's actually pretty good. We wanted to show you one more alamang recipe. To be very fair, I've eaten this a lot, but I've actually never made it. So we're gonna discover this recipe together. And we're gonna be making Tortang Alamang. Well, depending on where you are again, some people will call it okoy. So we're gonna make that really simply, and then a nice little sausawan with some patis puro and some sukang sasa. So for this one, we're gonna be using the fresh alamang, so not salted, not fermented. So we're gonna start with our alamang. That goes into a bowl. We have onions, garlic, mix that all in. To that, we're gonna add our rice flour and then 1 egg. This is one of those tancha recipes, just to make sure you get that hydration right. And then we're gonna shallow fry this because we wanna try to get this as crispy as possible. Let's try it. Flatten it. That's good. You want that to bind quickly, so take some of the hot oil. Need seasoning. Okay, I did say it was the first time making this. It's not bad. Texture's nice. Nice and airy. Neat flavor. I'm not getting much alamang flavor, so I'm gonna go ahead and add some of the salted alamang, which I think will make it nicer, and then a bit of salt as well. Hopefully that gives us a more complete flavor profile.
We have our sukang sasa, nipa palm vinegar, a little bit of patis, fish sauce, some calamondin or calamansi. Sausawan is very personal, so it really depends on how you like it. The second batch with the salted alamang as a seasoning, really nice. It's not as crispy as I wanted it to be, so I think it's just kind of playing around with that rice flour and flour ratio. But honestly, yum. This series is all about kind of learning about regional varieties and how language can also sometimes be confused in food. And so if you know of anything like this, that same word is used in very different ways across the archipelago, let us know, and we'll try to cook different things with it. And hopefully you guys learn something also along the way. That's tasty.